Welcome to another edition of Beyond Sight, the Beyond Sight podcast. I'm your host, Hasan Clay, and always keeping in the same vein of things that I'm talking about. And I know sometimes you might think, man, you talk about this subject a lot. Why? Because you do it a lot. You know what I mean? So we want to make sure that we get the repetition rolling in order to continue to remember, the people, the believers, the people benefits from the reminder, right? And so I want us to be able to kind of keep getting them. I hammer this thing in, hammer this thing in. I get some comments back. Some people say, "Man, I kind of like that episode. That the episode hit home," and I'm appreciative of it because let me know that I'm kind of doing some things out here that's right. And by all means, you can get a lot of this information from my book, Taming the Storm: Understanding and Overcoming High Conflict Personalities for a Peaceful Life. And but I'm just really kind of giving you just some of this stuff so you can get it, we can do something better. It's not about being perfect, but it is about, they say practice make perfect. No, practice makes improvement. Got a good friend of mine, Kevin Bracey, he always say that, right? Practice makes improvement. We gotta never be perfect. Only God is perfect. But we can improve. We can constantly improve each day, each day, each day. But you have to be the one who is willing to do that, right? Based upon understanding choice theory and reality therapy. You got to be the one who decide the one. You got to know what you want, then decide to make the actions, to put the action together to get what it is that you want. If you're looking for a difference, you got to be a difference. All right. So let's tap into this episode here. So now, the need to be right. I want y'all to hear something. The need to be right is costing you peace. All right. I want you to think about that. The need to be right is costing you peace. Now, how did that show up? A lot of times when we get into these conversations with people who are exhibiting high conflict personality traits, and either you are beginning to exhibit these high conflict personality traits, what kind of happens is that you get caught into this thing. This is how the back and forth, this is how the circular conversations keep taking place. It's like you're on a bicycle, you just keep running in the same place, right? You're paddling in the same place, paddling in the same place. And so, and that's because you are allowing yourself to get caught up. And you think you're trying to make sure your points are being understood and being taken into consideration. And at the same time, you're losing your peace. When we say peace, because sometimes, we just throw words out there and, oh, peace, right? But when we're saying you're losing that inner solace, that inner content and contentment, that inner stability, that mental and emotional and stability, you're losing it because you're getting caught up in a lot of these conversations. And sometimes that things even come out physical, right? You start exhibiting physical signs of you losing peace, inner peace, right? Some people, I know even for myself, I used to have a bad problem of always playing in my face a lot of times, right? Because my peace is off. I'm off mentally. I'm off. Some people, oh, you're in depression, or you're in anxiety, and sometimes it shows up as depression or anxiety. But what is it that you're giving? You're not stabilizing, you're not settling yourself in, right? And so what happens is you get caught up. Now, I mean, for myself, and I don't talk about anything here that I haven't experienced, right? Not only do I have the book understanding of it, I have the practical understanding of it, but I've lived a great deal of this stuff that I'm talking about, even for my own face. Mess with my fingers, I do stuff, tearing up my fingernails, tearing up my cuticles and everything. And sometimes it's almost like I'm skinning myself, man. I'm giving y'all, I'm telling you where this thing come from because I lived it. And sometimes people exhibit these symptoms of lack of peace in various different ways. And then we try to use other coping mechanisms that then becomes detrimental to our health. Some people start smoking, then they should justify smoking weed or all this other type of stuff here. Oh, it's okay, and it's from the earth and all this stuff. Some people go to drinking. Some people have promiscuous relationships. Various different things. Are they just mean as all hell? And they do various different things. All that's because they lose their peace, right? And some people justify, oh, they keep it real, 100, he's authentic, and you crazy, you know what I mean? Because you allow yourself to go crazy, right? Because you rely on somebody to kind of tap into you. I'm not one who's always about all the external things, but yeah, some external things do take place. They do have some factors. But at the end of the day, you are the one who got to make the decision to kind of tap yourself back into you and how you do that. And a part of this podcast and part of my practice is to help you tap back into you so you can be in a position when we start talking peace, we really start talking peace, then we are really talking peace, right? Man, F all that. You know what I mean? I ain't finna. I ain't gonna keep on going through these circles with you. I ain't gonna keep going down these rabbit holes with you. And you ain't got to go through this whole, whatever, I said what I said type of, you have to be on real time, be in real spaces, be present, right? So as I always got three things I want you kind of look at. I got three things I want you to look at when you start talking about making sure that you're not trying to be right and losing your peace in the process, right? Because when you're really dealing with high conflict personality traits, you're never going to be right, right? You're never going to be right, and you would be very exhausted. This is when we start talking about loss of peace. You'll be very exhausted, right, in dealing with the situation. So let's tap into these three. So the first one is, the difference between being right and being effective, right? So what does that look like? When you are having a conversation with someone, you're talking about a concern, you're talking about an issue, or at the end of the day, these are your issues. You know what it is that you are experiencing. You know what it is that you feel in the moment. And maybe the facts may not always line up with what it is. That's why we're having a conversation, right? But then that person has to be in a position of, being able to listen and being able to hear. But you keep trying to prove your point, loses potency, it loses effectiveness, right? And because only thing you're doing is getting ready to get caught up into these back and forth conversations, especially if this person is not willing to just hear what it is that you have to say and take that into consideration, what it is that you're saying. Right now, this does not give you the right to just come up with a whole lot of BS and think you can just drop it off on somebody and think they're just going to take it. Right? You got to be real about what it is you're coming with. So I always tell people this here: is this a you issue or is this a we issue? Right? You have to know before you start having a conversation if this is the case. Right? And because you got a feeling don't necessarily mean it's a fact, right? Feelings aren't always facts. And because, well, this is just my narrative, or this is my story, and all of that. I mean, sometimes your story can be BS. I'm just going to be real with you. Sometimes it can be, right? You have to know where you are in that. And then ain't nobody going to sit there and just take your BS because, you saying this is you and this is my whatever. Right. And you may be having an experience and maybe you can be interpreting the experience wrong. That can be a case. That's how we have conversations. Right now, you can be exhibiting the high conflict personality traits because you think everybody's supposed to acquiesce to how in the hell you feel. All right. And that's not the case. That's not, nobody just going to sit there and take it in the face like that. You know, and nobody just going to sit there and take it in the face like that. You know, and nobody just going to sit there and take it in the face like that. You know, and nobody just going to sit there and take it in the face like that. You know, and nobody just going to sit there and take it in the face like that. You know, and nobody just going to sit there and take it in the face like that. You know, and nobody just going to sit there and take it in the face like that. You know, and nobody just going to sit there and take it in the face like that. You know, and nobody just going to sit there and take it in the face like that. You know, and nobody just going to sit there and take it in the face like that. You know, and nobody just going to sit there and take it in the face like that. You know, and nobody just going to sit there and take it in the face like that. You know, and nobody just going to sit there and take it in the face like that. You know, and nobody just going to sit there and take it in the face like that. You know, and nobody just going to sit there and take it in the face like that. You know, and nobody just going to sit there and take it in the face like that. You know, and nobody just going to sit there and take it in the face like that. You know, and nobody just going to sit there and take it in the face like that. You know, and nobody just going to sit there and Nobody should not. You're not finna just hit me in my jaw, and then I'm gonna turn my cheek and let you hit me another one. I, it has never worked. It's been a concept, and I know that's in our society that's been prevalent. Look, that don't work. I'm telling you, you're not going to hit me, then think I'm supposed to allow you to hit me again. It's not going to be the case. And when I'm not even talking physically, I'm talking about you're not going to do emotional drive-bys because this is your feelings. As some people who use words, and your words are so, and I'm using situation because it's something that I'm thinking about right now, not just kind of talking about because I know some of my clients listen to my podcast, right? And so, sometimes we use words because we're educated, we hear words, right? And we use it like when you're trying to give somebody a reality of a situation, and then they use words, right? Thinking that this is how they're going to know. That's not, I'm not going to sit there and take that. I'm hearing what you're saying, but you are actually taking that wrong, right? And so, and sometimes people just want to have the narrative that makes them feel good. I get that point too. I'm not going to sit here and try to lose my effectiveness by trying to prove that I'm right in that situation. Sometimes I just got to let you be where you are. And I just know that you didn't understand. And I gave you some explanation. I tried to give you the clarity on the explanation. But then if you walk away still on that type of time, then that's what you walk away with. Right? I'm not going to try to, make sure that you understand that I'm right and whatever. I just gave you what I gave you. I can only give you what I have. Right? And so that's me still trying to be effective. And sometimes we have to even understand what effective look like. Effective is, I just gave you the clarity. You may not walk away with the understanding that I'm intending for you to have, I'm hoping for you to have. Because you are a total person yourself. You can think however the heck you want to think. But I'm not going to go through that back and forth with you. Right? Even a client. And the client ain't always right. I know when I used to work with in retail, it's always say the customer is always right. No, hell they ain't. I had one time I was in the, with the customer already right because she say the watermelon was too pulpy. What the hell? You know what I mean? Why the hell is the watermelon? Because she want to bring the watermelon back after taking it home and think I'm supposed to give her a refund. No, says I'm not doing that. Or did she want me to cut it open because I was over a department, right? She wanted me to cut it open so she could see what it looked like before. No, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing all that. Well, the customer already right. No, you're not right. I'm not doing that. I'm not going to lose money by messing with you. Because then if I cut it open, you don't like it. Then what I got to cut. I got to cut open. I can't sell that, right? And so at that point, I'm losing money. The effective thing for me to do is just let you know that it's not going to happen, and so, if you don't like it, you bring it back and I'll let the store management say that they, and they could give any refunds that they give, but I'm not going to do it on this end. And that's not about being right, me trying to be right. That's just about me following what I know to be the right thing to do. Right. And that's all I can do. And so, when you're having conversations with people, that's all you can actually do. It's not about being right. It's about doing the right things, right? Do you want to be right? Do you want to get it right? That's the effectiveness part of it. Do I want to be right? Do I want to get this thing right? All right. So that's one thing. Two, look, high conflict personality trait people who exhibit high conflict personality trait, they will make every conversation that you have a courtroom drama, right? And it got its, it's a program, me and my wife like to watch called Lincoln Lawyer, right? And need to be in the courtroom, sometimes he ain't even, he beat the case or, but whatever, all this drama that's going around. But when you get in the courtroom, it's just you got these surprising, boom, just break out with the facts. Everybody go through it. No, We're not having that when we're having this conversation. I'm not looking to be doing all this justification. I'm not looking to be doing all this defending, and I'm not going through this whole evidence gathering. So now I'm not, and I'm a fact finder by training, right? Because I was also a union rep for the long. I did a lot of grievance arbitration work, so I'm a fact finder by training. This is what I actually do that. Right, I did that for a living for many years of just fact finding, right? But when I'm having a conversation with someone, it's not about all this evidence gathering. I got what it is that I need. I'm presenting to you my concerns. And now I'm not going to go through well, where you get that from? Or where you get that? How you know that? How you know I did that? How you know that was me? And you're going through all of that. I'm not going through all them changes, right? Because that's what those are. Those are changes, right? Well, when did you see me do it? Did you see me do it? And all this old type of stuff here. Now, and I know even as in Islam, certain things require witnesses. True, all right? And there's no doubt about that. Some you just can't pull it out, pull it out your behind and think you can just put it out there and it's supposed to be okay. Whatever comes up, come out. No, that's not the case, right? Things have to have concrete situations. But then there are times that people are really trying to play you on the fact that you got to have all this evidence, this amount of preponderance of the evidence, and all this. That's a legal term, the preponderance of the evidence. No, I'm not dealing with all that. This is what's taking place. This is my experience here. This is my concern. This is my experience in this, and this is the outcome that I'm looking for. Right now, we can have a conversation about, okay, if you were trying to give me that experience or not. And okay, if maybe you weren't trying to give me that experience, right? And that's cool. You weren't. But I'm telling you, this is the experience I walked away with, right? Maybe you might need to change your delivery or to change the way you're moving in order for this maybe to take place, because I'm saying that right there caused me to think this way here, right? It leads me to think this way here. And I don't want to think this way here. And okay, and I want to give you the benefit of the doubt because I don't want to think this way here. But you also have something to do, right? You're not free of a situation, right? Because I do have a concern. And in most cases, because I'm going back to step one, because I'm trying to think, is this a me issue or is it a we issue, right? Then I went through this painstaking process to make sure that it was a we issue versus just a me issue. Now I'm presenting to you the we issue, right? Meaning that I got an issue with you, right? And so now we can have a discussion on that, because here's the outcome I'm looking for. A lot of times people can't get to the outcome, right? A lot of times people can't get to the outcome because they're stuck on, did it take place? Didn't it take place? What time of day was it? Did I do it in the morning? Or did I do it at night? Did I do it at 3 p.m.? Or did I do it at 5 p.m.? Did I do it at 8 p.m.? Did I do it 2 days ago? Or whatever. They go through all those gymnastics, right? And which is really going to tap into this third one. They go all through all these mental gymnastics with you. They playing with you. And really, they just playing in your face with all that, right? Because they don't want to be wrong. They don't want to hold accountability. And you are trying to make them accountable. Now, you have to understand, you can't make anybody do anything. And in the situation, agreement is not always necessary to do something different. You don't necessarily have to agree with. Sometimes my wife would tell me something. I don't necessarily agree with her, but hey, okay, let me do something a little different, because obviously this just gave her a problem. Let me do something a little different. You know what I mean? I don't agree with it. You don't think I'm right? It's not a matter if I think you're right or not. This is what you feel. This is what you think. Now, I ain't gonna take a whole bunch of unnecessary craziness, But if you're saying that it is, then that's what it is. I'm gonna just try to do something different. That's all I can give you. Try to do something different, right? And we ain't gonna be beefing about that either, right? We're not gonna be in a position where we're gonna cause resentment. We're not gonna be in a situation where, you got contempt for me and all these type of things here. And even on the workforce, right? Even in the workforce, because what I do, I not only deal with relationships, couples, marital relationships, I also do with workplace relationships as well, right? How people work with each other, right? And sometimes when I bring, especially this situation here, this is really a case that what happened. Well, when did you see me do that? I didn't do that. When did you see me? I didn't punch in at this time. I punched in at that time. Oh, I didn't do this. I did. I mean, they go through all these scenarios, right, to not hold accountability, right? And so here's what I want you to do, right? Here's the outcome I'm looking for. Well, I ain't gonna be doing that. Well, then we got a whole nother problem because you're telling me what you're not gonna do, right? And we just got a whole nother issue that we're dealing with. When you on this job here, me as management, you're telling me what you're not going to do. At that point, we're dealing with an insubordination situation. We're dealing with a failure to follow instruction situation, right? And so there's a whole the scope of the situation just expanded at that point when you got somebody who's going to be defiant like that, right? And we have to do something a little different. We have to deal with them just a tad differently. And so, but you see some of this type of stuff even in the workforce, in the workplace, right? But to still the same outcomes of what I'm talking, what I'm seeing, the same form is still what I'm looking for. When you are looking for a situation in order to keep this from being a courtroom drama, you need to make sure that you have an understanding of what it is you're coming from, the issue. You want to explain what it is, how you see the issue, whether you see this issue played out. And then here's the outcomes that I'm looking for, right? Maybe they can give you a little clarity about, well, yeah, I did that. This is the reason why I did it, or this is what's happening. This is my thought process. And okay, I get it. I see that you had your mind in the right place. You just followed up with the wrong action. All right, let's do something different. This is people working together, right? This is people kind of getting on the same page. Now, a person with high conflict personality don't want to be on your page. They want you on their page. And this is what we're trying to get away from. And last but not least, in this whole thing, it's important to maintain mental and emotional safety in dealing with people who have high conflict personality traits, right? We still call that, in some instances, we may call that peace, but it's important to safeguard your mental and emotional, and having mental and emotional safety. And of course, physical safety is always important, right? But it's important to make sure that you're cool on these three levels: physically, mentally, and emotionally, right? It's imperative. Make sure that. But when you get pulled into these type of conversations, you're going to lose one or all three of these levels here. You're going to potentially lose mental, emotional, or even physical safety, right? I've known people who, even in the workplace, it's an incident that happened up in my hometown that I'm from, where an incident where people were getting involved, guy got killed on the job, right? And so, things happen and I mean, even though from a personal standpoint, things happen, right? And so when you are then trying to maintain those three levels of safety, and I'm not saying to walk away from presenting an issue, I'm saying make sure that you don't get pulled into a situation. Just stay on your facts. Stay with your facts. Don't get your feelings all in it. Don't get even just totally emotional about the situation or whatever it might be, where it escalates. Just stay on your facts. This is what took place. This is what I want to see. This is what was wrong with that had taken place, and this is what I would like to see done differently. Right. This allows you to maintain some sense of emotion, because really the reality of it is, if somebody has done a particular thing, obviously they have interrupted some of what might be mental and emotional situations already. Right. We're going to leave the physical out of it right now, because I'm hoping that nobody people keep their hands to themselves. Right. Uh, and even at the extension of their hands, weapons or whatever the case may be. I'm hoping and praying that people, even in this day and time now, where people solve issues a whole lot dumber than probably ever before, right? Because they get to physical very quick, right? People get to physical very quick, right? That's just the reality of the day and time that we live in. But I'm not saying even in that we pray that when you're trying to discuss an issue with someone, that they don't escalate. This is how you also keep them escalating. You said, you gave your presentation to a situation by addressing it. You asked, this is where it comes from, this is how it showed up, and this is what you want to see the outcomes. Now it's on them to be able to do what it is they're going to do with that. Right? You state your facts, you stated what it is you're looking for, and that's all you can do. And it's upon you to maintain your level of safety. And how you do that is not getting pulled in to all these other things that people would tend to do, because they don't want to take accountability. Right. So that doesn't mean that in that this conversation, we've had these conversations before. We talked about these situations. People, start wanting to be, they want to see themselves as a victim. They want to deflect. They want to, move the goalposts. They want to do all these old things that we give, labels to, or give examples of. Right? They want to do all of that because they don't want to take accountability. Person with high conflict personality don't want to take concept accountability and responsibility. Right? Some people would even be in a position to where they're, sometimes we call it avoidance, right? Or they shut down, and they do a variety of different things. I know, a person that don't know how to deal with closure, right? You bring up an issue, they don't know how to really close it off. So then they don't want to deal with that, right? Which then leaves you with a problem of they're really trying to get out of it because they don't want to address it. Then they want to change the subject. They want to make it think, okay, after you said something, we okay now. You know what I mean? They go through all those little scenarios, and when we're not okay, but you have to just show that you're not okay with a situation by then how you then continue to deal with them, right? Um, and sometimes in dealing with choice theory and reality therapy, you have to be the one who is able to make a call, right? Sometimes you have to learn how to know how to cut it off and make the call to cut it off. I'm not saying everybody just got to cut everything off real quick. I think things have to, we have so many extremes in the world today that we don't understand the middle course of many things. We don't understand. And sometimes even working together, we go to so far the extremes of trying to work with somebody or trying to work with them, or trying to do this, that we lose ourselves in that process. And sometimes we cut a situation off so abruptly, and that we still don't know how to deal with people, right? And yeah, in some instances, I'm not going to sit there and say that there's a personality disorder in that, because again, a person has to have an assessment done. If a person is exhibiting some narcissistic personality traits, Some people exhibiting some antisocial personality traits, some various different traits there, which then, if they haven't had an assessment, then there's a disorder. But you can't label it as that, as a disorder, or that person's narcissistic, all this old type of stuff here. They are exhibiting narcissistic traits. So you have to deal with it based upon the traits versus you trying to deal with it versus based upon the assessment, the personality disorder assessment, right? A lot of you guys aren't qualified to be doing all that now. Just be honest with you. A lot of us aren't qualified to be doing that. And you get on the Mayo website and the Mayo Clinic website and WebMDs. I don't even do WebMD anymore. But they get on these different websites and start trying to look up all these situations, and then because they see the list, and then they're looking at the person, they see the list. Now you done made the assessment that this person is that, or you're not qualified to do that because there's more to it than just this assessment that is taking place. Now they may be exhibiting traits, and you have to leave it at the ideal that is traits. I know I say this a lot because it happens so often, and that's how you get caught up, because you are looking at this person from that lens of the disorder versus looking at that person from the traits, right? And so, and there is a difference here, right? So I want us to be able to improve upon how we are functioning, as citizens, as fellow human beings, as spiritual beings having a human experience. We still can have the best experience that we possibly can have, even being spiritual beings, right? We still have the best human experience that we can have. But some of that, we have to learn these behaviors. We've been conditioned a particular way. And a lot of times what I'm trying to do is present the information so we can start doing a different conditioning. We have to unlearn some things and learn some things and relearn some things. And the same effect, and a lot of people may notice that people who smoke, right? I'm just saying cigarettes. I ain't talking about nothing else. I'm talking about people who smoke. What they do is, tell them, when they have the sensation to want to smoke, they tell them give a piece of candy, right? They might take a piece of candy. So they replace that sensation of wanting to smoke with the sensation of eating some candy, right? So you see a lot of people eating a lot of candy because they're trying to stop smoking, right? So, but that's the understanding that they're trying to they're unlearning a behavior and trying to give another behavior. Even within, for drug addicts, especially for heroin addicts, they used to have this thing of methadone, right? And so, they're people who are going through all these withdrawals. What they do is they keep hitting them with another, give them the methadone, give them methadone, give them methadone. So, and it helps knock off that edge of the withdrawals while they still are not taking the heroin, right? So they're replacing that with something else until they can wean them off of it altogether, right? Because the idea in this instance is to wean them off altogether. So what I'm trying to do here is infuse the idea of unlearning this behavior and replacing it with something else. But in order for that to happen, you have to be the one who say, hey, I want this in my life. I want to do differently in my life. I want something different. It's insanity, right? Doing the same thing and think you're going to get different results. That's just backwards. You have to do something different in order to get something different, right? That's not really insanity. It's stubbornness. I'm gonna call it something different, because that's the whole thing that people used to love to say. It's insanity to do this. That sounds cool. No, it's stubborn on your part because you refuse to change. You refuse to do something else. You want everything to acquiesce to you when you might need to be the person to make the switch. You might need to be the person who turned the corner, and for other people to turn the corner with you. I will guarantee you, I'm gonna land with this. I guarantee you a couple of things is going to happen when you start making these type of changes. Either one, they're going to get on the boat with you, or they're going to get the hell on. All right? It's two choices that they got here. Either they're going to make them changes with you, and when you start doing something different, either they're going to try to make those changes with you, or you're going to get the hell on because you ain't good for business with them. They can't get up. They can't make. They don't get the satisfaction. Now they're going to try to gaslight the hell out of you and tell you something wrong with you and all this other type of stuff here. But that's okay. That's okay, because they're doing high conflict personality traits. They're doing what high conflict personality traits do. They want to make sure they don't have the responsibility on them that they're going to say something wrong with you. They'll say things like, yeah, I know I did this, but let's just park that over there. Let's put a pin in this because you did this, and that. Right? And not taking accountability for the issue that's been brought to them about themselves with you. But what they're doing is they don't want to take accountability. They want you to be the bad guy. And sometimes you just, in that book, you just need to be the bad guy. It's okay. Don't fear the blame or the blamer. Right? You can't walk in that thing being scared because somebody is, they're going to tell somebody, they're going to backbite you. They're going to do all this old type of stuff here to make you look like the bad guy. Hey man, Tony Montana said, say hi to the bad guy. Right? For those of us who, watched Scarface back in the day, he said, hey, everybody need a bad guy. So say hi to the bad guy. Right? And sometimes you just got to be that. You're not bad, but sometimes you just got to be that in a book, and it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay because what you're going to do is you're going to find that once they get the heck on and you start living based upon a new standard in life, those things in what you are actually wanting in your life, you're going to attract it, which then allows you to have that mental safety, that emotional safety, that physical safety, which we call peace. It's going to allow you to have that. And you're not going to, not saying that you don't have some type of conflict. You talk about high conflict. Conflict happens. High conflict is what we're trying to get away from. People have disagreements every day. People don't see eye to eye every day. And that's okay. I don't even want to be around nobody that just because that's nobody who's going to help me be better. That's somebody stroking my ego. If they agree with me on everything I do, that's somebody stroking my ego. They playing me because that's all that's what's taking place. You're getting played. All right. So with that, I'm going to land with this one on this episode. Got a couple of things. On July 18th, we're having a marriage boot camp here in Atlanta. I think I got the flyer and information that's going to be here. Please come out and hang out with us, get some things, some information. And of course, this is open to all those who are trying to be in a better situation of being married, right? Those who are trying to get married, those who are already married, because people who are unmarried need to be there too, because you can benefit from it. Even though you don't have a spouse, you can still benefit from it because in this, you're learning how to be a better spouse, right? It's just not all about being married. Even, some years ago, I had the great fortune of putting out a book with Naila called The Selection Perfection, a rock solid premarital guide for you, right? That's a book that we put out some years ago. But my thought was, even with that book, that this book here is good for people who were already married as well, right? It just is about, because once you made the selection, you still got to kind of do some things to keep this thing right, because we can always select good and still mess it up, right? doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to always be right because you made a good choice at the beginning. You still got to keep it right. Right. So I want us to know that coming out for those who are unmarried, you definitely need to be here. Right. I got a few people I'm talking to are unmarried. Gonna have some unmarried people there. People who, of course, who are married, please come up. And if you've been married before and you're not married now, please still show up. This is going to be a one-day event. That's why we're calling it a boot camp. It's going to be a little intense, but we got vending that's going to take place. Got about 5 presenters. It's going to be there with some great topics. My topic is going to be about the marriage reset, right? And so I want us to kind of really come out. Myself, Imam Shadid Muhammad, Imam Akil Ingram, Sister Michelle Renee Davis, and Dr. Nisa Muhammad, Howard University chaplain at Howard University. She's going to be there. So we got some hard hitters that's coming through with some great information, some great workshops and things in nature there, some good vending. We got some good food that we're going to have that's going to be there. Of course, food is going to come with the program itself. So by all means, please come out. It's going to be July 18th. You can go to, I think the flyer say where's going go. You can go and get information around Islamic Center of Delaware. You can definitely go in and check it out. And if there's any more things you got to ask, you can ask me, hit me on the inbox, let me know what it is you're looking at. I think Get Made Productions, I think that's one of my emails at gmail.com. I think that's one of my emails. So by all means, please hit me there if you need to. Yeah, I think it's going to be a great event. We've been doing these events really kind of like all over the country. We're here in Atlanta this time around. We think we're trying to go to several different covers because we've really been on the East Coast. But we were bringing it down south, y'all. We're going to bring it to the dirty. You know what I mean? So, looking forward to having that. And we're going to have some fun because Atlanta's a nice place to visit. Please come in. I think the next day they're having a event also out at Six Flags that they're putting together so people can go out to Six Flags the following day on Sunday. And so therefore you can, be around, kind of have to get the amusement park feel, people be there and people. And this is, of course, your decision if you want to follow up with that part of it as well. Of course, I got both my books now, The Mom Effect, and Taming the Storm, Understanding and Overcoming a High Conflict Personality for Peaceful Life. Both of these are on sale now. Amazon, of course, you can get them at Amazon or contact me, and make a direct purchase for me. Check out my website, hasanclay.net as well. And of course, connect with me. Share this podcast. Subscribe to my podcast on YouTube. Still trying to build a YouTube channel. It's still continuing to grow. I'm definitely appreciative of that. At the Beyond Sight podcast, you find that under the Hasan Clay Experience, and you can tap into me on all platforms, really all social media platforms on the Hasan Clay Experience, TikTok and Instagram. We want to try to push that up as well, and Facebook and LinkedIn and the Hasan Clay. So you got no reason why you can't contact me. Got no reason that you can't tag into me, right? And by all means, please, continue to support. And as I say every week, every Monday at 7 p.m., this thing goes out. And so set your notifications on Instagram, on YouTube, so you can get the notifications that this is out here. And I thank you. Y'all be safe this week. Have a pleasant week. Have an even more wonderful weekend. Be safe. And I'm going to see you again here next Monday at 7 p.m. Y'all have a great one.